The crystalline dome of Sanctuary 7 reflected the dying red sun of Kepler 442b, casting long shadows across the terraformed valley. Daniel pressed his palm against the bioscanner, his eyes fixed on the quarantine zone beyond the settlement's perimeter. Inside the sterile observation room, his 7-year-old daughter Jassy stood with her nose nearly touching the reinforced transparent aluminum wall, clutching a protein cookie wrapped in synthetic paper. "Papa." "She looks hungry," Jassy whispered, her breath fogging the barrier on the other side. Separated by 3 meters of engineered safety protocols and atmospheric regulators, lay specimen XR709, what the colonists had begun calling the Dragon Mother. In reality, she was a Draconis sophiens, the first sentient reptilian species humanity had encountered in 200 years of interstellar exploration. Her iridescent scales, each one a sophisticated organ capable of photosynthesis and thermal regulation, had dulled to a sickly gray. The bioluminescent neural crest along her spina, complex network that functioned as both communication, array and sensory processor, flickered weakly. Daniel's jaw tightened. As lead xenobiologist of the colony, he'd spent 3 months studying XR709, since the mining expedition had found her collapsed near the lithium deposits. The preliminary scans had revealed something that haunted him. She was producing elevated levels of prolactin and oxytocin analogs. She was lactating, or rather, her species equivalent of it. Somewhere out in the toxic methane swamps beyond the settlement, her offspring were likely dying. "Dr. Chun!" crackled the cum in his ear. It was Director Morrison. "The Council's decision is final. We can't risk cross-contamination. The specimen stays in quarantine until we complete the full pathogen screening. That's another 6 weeks minimum." Daniel didn't respond. He watched Jassy unwrap her cookie, a carefully formulated mixture of synthesized proteins, carbohydrates, and essential nutrients that cost the colony 3 water credits to produce. In the harsh economics of a frontier world, that cookie represented hours of labor, kilowatts of energy, and precious resources. The Dragon Mother's eye, a sophisticated organ with triple-layered retinas, capable of perceiving wavelengths from deep infrared to near ultraviolet, tracked Jassy's movement. According to the neural mapping Daniel had conducted, the Draconis sophiens possessed a neocortex ratio comparable to dolphins, possibly even early hominids. She understood. She knew she was trapped. "Papa, can I—" Jassy looked up at him with those impossibly earnest eyes that reminded him so much of her mother, lost 2 years ago in the atmospheric processor accident. "Jassy, the airlock protocols. I know about the decontamination cycle," she interrupted, her voice carrying that peculiar certainty children sometimes possess. 23 minutes for full sterilization, Mrs. Yamamoto taught us in xenobiology basics class. Daniel felt something crack inside his chest. Here, on this alien world 51 light-years from Earth, his daughter had just completed 2nd grade. She'd learned to read by studying genetic sequences. She'd learned mathematics through terraforming calculations. And apparently she'd learned compassion despite living in a world where every resource was rationed. Every decision calculated for survival. "The cookie won't survive the decontamination," he said softly. "The radiation will break down the molecular bonds." Jassy considered this, her small face scrunched in concentration. Then her eyes brightened. "But the food slot, the one you use for the specimen nutrition, it's already decontaminated on both sides." Daniel blinked. She was right. The transfer chamber used UVC sterilization and antimicrobial misting, but it was designed precisely to allow organic material passage without complete molecular breakdown. It was how they'd been feeding XR709 the synthesized nutrient paste. He looked at the Dragon Mother again. Her nictitating membrane slid across her eye, a slow blink that their limited research suggested might indicate acknowledgement or even gratitude in her species' nonverbal communication matrix. The biomonitors showed her core temperature had dropped another ½ degree. Without intervention, the algorithms predicted she had perhaps 72 hours before systemic organ failure. "If you share your cookie," Daniel said carefully, kneeling beside his daughter, "she might eat it." But Jassy, she won't be able to keep it forever. Do you understand? It will give her energy for a little while, but I know, Papa. Jassy's voice was steady, older than her years. But maybe if she has energy, she can hold on until you figure out how to help her find her babies. The words hit him like a plasma bolt. How did she know? I heard you talking to Dr. Kowalski last night, Jassy admitted, not meeting his eyes. About the hormone readings. About how she's a mother. Daniel stood slowly, his mind racing through a dozen protocols, risk assessments, and career-ending violations of quarantine procedures. Then he thought about the transmission they'd received last week from Earth, 16 years old, due to the time lag showing the biodiversity collapse had entered its terminal phase. The message was clear: humanity was learning, too late. The cost of failing to recognize sentience in time, he activated his override codes. Computer, open food transfer slot 7 alpha. Authorization Chun Delta 379. The panel slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Jassy carefully placed the cookie inside, her small hands trembling slightly. The UV lights flickered, the misting system engaged, and 12 seconds later, the interior panel opened. The Dragon Mother raised her head, a movement that must have cost her significant energy reserves. Her forked tongue, equipped with vomeronasal organs capable of detecting chemical compounds at parts per trillion concentration, extended tentatively. She pulled the cookie into her mouth. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, gradually, the neural crest along her spine began to glow faintly at first, then with increasing intensity. The colors shifted through the spectrum: deep violet, electric blue, warm amber. Daniel's handheld scanner went wild with data. She's saying something, he breathed, frantically recording. The bioluminescent patterns, they're not random. There's a mathematical structure. It's a language. Jassy pressed both hands against the transparent wall. The Dragon Mother lifted one taloned appendage, each claw a masterwork of evolutionary engineering, capable of manipulating tools with precision, and placed it opposite Jassy's small palm. The neural crest flashed in a sequence that Daniel's preliminary algorithms translated with rough approximation. Gratitude-shared-future-bond-protection-offspring-reciprocal-debt. Papa, Jassy whispered, tears streaming down her face. She says she keep it. Not the cookie, the sharing? She keep the sharing. Daniel's cum exploded with Morrison's furious voice, demanding explanations, threatening disciplinary action. But he barely heard it. He was too busy watching his daughter and this alien mother communicate across the vast gulf of evolution. Biology and circumstance connected by the simple, universal language of compassion, somewhere in the methane swamps. Infant Draconosophians were crying for their mother, and Daniel realized with crystalline clarity that the next decision he made would define not just his career, but the entire moral trajectory of humanity's expansion into the stars. He reached for the emergency override panel that would open the quarantine. His finger hovered over the button. To be continued.